I got him at gunpoint.
They're pulling them out.
911. Advise ready for camp.
Welcome to another episode of War Stories. I'm Tom.
And I'm
And I'm pretty stoked for this week because as a musician myself, we a couple weeks back had probably more than a couple weeks, like a month or two.
Hey, not the only musician. I play drums.
That's true. I should say currently practicing musician. Because I know with your knee you haven't been able to play for I don't know, did you even still have a drum set?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, it's
Okay,
in
good.
storage right now,
Good.
being held hostage by my fucking mother, who will not give it to me for the last 10 years, 15 years, 16 years.
Just using it as collateral.
Yeah.
Well, it's at least a month ago, maybe two. We had someone on who brought to our attention the music of Shannon Book, and we closed our episode with one of his songs, "You're Not Alone." And subsequently, Shannon was stoked to hear his song on the podcast, and we ended up just chatting. And Shannon's a cool fucking dude, so I invited him on, and guess who's here? What's up, Shannon? How are you?
I'm gonna need our drummer to take his socks off, change his socks, and then take some motion. Drink your water.
I'm not even wearing socks. I'm wearing Crocs.
Okay, change your Crocs, fool.
Hey, you guys know the last thing a bass player says before he gets fired?
No, but this is gonna be good. I already know.
The last thing a bass player ever says before he gets fired is, "Hey, I wrote some songs." And for Chuck, I wanted to give you this one. How do you know when a drummer's at your door? The knock speeds up and he doesn't know when to come in.
Oh, God.
I am so using that shit again. It's gonna happen.
For those of you who don't play music, those are very funny jokes. For those of you that do,
if you don't understand it,
it's okay.
it's all right.
It's fucking so true.
Anyway. So Shannon, you've been how long? Like, just tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into the military and get all the way? I mean, you spent almost an entire career in the military, and you're retired, if I understand correctly, and then started a whole second career. So how did you end up getting into the military in the first place?
Well, first and foremost, I was born in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky, and I just needed a way out.
Like in a holler?
Like in a holler.
I worked with a CHP copper who was born and raised in Kentucky, and he told me, no, son, I grew up in poverty in a holler. And
right. What's all this white privilege garbage?
Yeah, right.
I grew up in a single wide trailer in a holler in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky.
Yeah, he told me that he'd put a glass of water out at night and it'd be frozen the next morning because they didn't have no heat.
Yeah, or he just put it on the counter and wake up next morning to have a block of ice for his.
That's what he's saying. Yeah,
completely
frozen. So anyway, so you were born in the middle of nowhere and just tried to get out.
So I mean, I really didn't hate where I grew up. I grew up in in East Bernstein, Kentucky, a little place called Hazel Green. Very, very patriotic part of small world, nowhere, Kentucky. And my grandfather was a sailor. One of my grandfathers was a sailor. The other one was a soldier. Back around the World War II era.
Right.
Korea, World War II, Korea. And, so it just kind of made sense. Like, and it was either play football to go to school or go to the military to go to school. Because I grew up in a single wide trailer. Like it wasn't like we were well off,
Right.
And I wanted to support and defend my country. So I watched Desert Storm. Like I'm sure some of you guys did, on TV. like there was only 5 channels back then, but
Yeah.
like I watched Desert Storm on TV. It was,
straight up live.
yeah, like, you know, like, hey, just so you know, what's that big white X on the TV for? Boom. Oh, wow. There's a smoke cloud. All right. Cool.
Yeah. And the F-117 made its debut, and
right.
Oh, yeah.
M1 tank and all that cool stuff. So that kind of created an itch for me to, you know, join the service as well. So I always wanted to support and defend the country. Like I've always been a patriot. It was ingrained in me. My grandfather was, you know, all about taking care of the constitutions. Both my grandfathers, my grandfather Book was a businessman, and, you know, capitalism was important to everybody. And if you take care of the people that work for you, they take care of you. And that was just what I was taught, you know? So long story short, I wanted to be a Marine. I know, right? Oh, he was going to be a Marine. Blah, blah, blah. Right. I literally walked into the Marine Corps recruiting office. Like I did the PFT. I did the PFT screener. I did the freaking ASVAB screener, blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting in the freaking back office with Gunny, who's doing all the monitor stuff.
Yep.
Like, so what do you want to do, boy? I'm like, and you know, he's got his coffee cup and he's spitting his Copenhagen in his coffee cup, you know, after he just finished his cup of coffee. And I was like, well, I want to be a doctor. He was just like,
what shit?
What? Like he just like, and I'm like,
we take you next door.
Yeah, well, yeah, hold on. He's like, you don't want to be a sniper or a cop or a killer? No, sir. I just want to be a doctor. Now, rewind a little bit. Just before that, probably about a year and a half prior to that, I had cut my toes off in a lawn mowing accident.
Oh,
Kentucky.
Oh, shit.
It is what it is. It is what it is. It's Kentucky. So I cut off 2.5 toes, and I spent a little time in a trauma ward. And my trauma surgeon was probably a little German guy. I'm sure he's dead now, but you know, he was like 70. Amazing trauma surgeon. Did some amazing work on what was left of my foot. And after that 2 weeks in the hospital, like I was probably playing, like he did such a good job. Like I was playing football in like 3.5, 4 weeks.
Wow.
Like I was back on the football field. Like I was at 2 days practice.
damn.
So
It's fucking rough. That's tough.
well, I mean, dear Generation X, you either do it or you don't.
Right. Yeah.
So,
That's the way we were raised, man.
yeah.
Earn
All
it.
it hurts, that sucks for you. Get off the truck. Whatever.
Rub some dirt on it.
Yeah. So I was completely blown away by his demeanor and what he did and how he did it. And I was like, I want to be a surgeon. I want to be a doctor. So that's why I told Gunny what I told him. And he was like, you don't want to be a sniper? You don't want to be a cop or a killer? And I'm like, no, I want to be a doctor. And he just kind of spit in his cup again. And he pushed himself away from his desk and he got up. And he goes, follow me, boy. And we get up from the desk, walk across the hallway to the Navy office. And he looks at this boiler tech second class and he goes, hey, Boats. He goes, this young man right here wants to be a Fleet Marine Force Navy corpsman. Make it happen. That was
I
it.
want to be a doctor.
Like that didn't sound like
I didn't know what
doctor.
that meant. I just knew that like I was probably on my road to being a doctor. Like, and I was like, I asked the boiler tech, I was like, so does that mean I'm going to be a doctor? He goes, yeah, it's possible. And I'm like,
Go to college. Med school.
Oh, God bless recruiters.
yeah.
We're gonna cut up a pig, and you're gonna get that motherfucker to.
Never
They're
has there
breathing
been
again with quick
lying
clap.
for a more noble cause.
Facts and shit. I mean, I knew I had to go to medical school, and I knew I had to take the MCAT, and I knew I had to do all that for medical school. But I thought that this was the easiest and most effective path for me to
You could
get
go
there.
into a recruiter and tell them you
absolutely.
wanted to be a fire truck, and they would tell you you could be a fire truck.
Yeah, they would. They would.
You wanna-
Listen, I can't tell you. They wanted me to recruit, and I was like,
Mm-mm.
I did 2 tours of combat, and they were like, "So you want to go to recruiting station?" I'm like,
Nope.
I'm not interested in lying to people. Like, you realize I just came out of Fallujah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna be. There's no way. Anyway, that's how I became a Navy corpsman. And his next question was, "So where do you want to go to boot camp?" I'm like, "I don't know where boot camp's at."
What are my choices?
He goes, you got Orlando. You got
Orlando was still open then.
Yeah, Orlando is still open. Orlando, you got Great Lakes, Illinois, or you've got San Diego. And I was like,
And San Diego is still open.
Oh shit,
Yeah,
San
That's what-
Diego.
oh yeah.
Great.
The
I
guy
was
Lakes.
in
Matt
the
went
last-
through that
I was
only
in
the
the last
women could go
company.
to Orlando.
I was in the last company that graduated from San Diego.
Wow.
I think it's just Great Lakes now.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just,
it is. It is.
Yeah.
Great mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where Matt went. I actually went. His family took me with them to go see him graduate from Great Lakes.
Oh wow.
You know, I almost went into the Navy.
Oh really? We're gonna trade. We're gonna trade.
I thought you
stories?
did.
What's happening now?
No, I went into the
That was a good joke. That was a good joke. He joined the
I
Navy
almost
with a
did.
leather strap around his neck.
They made me take the fucking ASVAB, and I scored really well. And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" They're like, "You can go and do Navy SWIC if you want." And I was like, "That's what I want to do. I want to be on the SWIC
guy.
team." And I was like, "Cool." And then they came back and they said, "Well, apparently we didn't realize that you had taken it in high school, and it was you scored so shitty on it, but you still passed it. However, there wasn't a long enough time period between when you took it at MEPS." So that good score you got, yeah, we got to throw that out, and we can't accept you into these, but we can get you into something else, but you can't qualify for SEALs right off the bat or Navy SWIC or whatever. And I was like, well, I want to be on like a Swift boat crew. Like I want to be on a boat crew, that's some cool shit. And he's like, yeah, no, you're gonna have to wait. I was like, how much longer? He's like, gave me the time frame. I was like, fuck that. And then so they wanted to push me into fucking combat arms, or not combat arms, but the fucking MPs, the shore police. And I was like, nah. And so I ended up going to the Marine Corps, and then I ended up going to Parris Island. But long story short, I ended up going to the Marine Corps.
And you were on a boat crew on an AV.
Yeah. I got lied to. They said I was supposed to be tanks.
You were
a tank?
You were an extreme light armored tank.
They're like, you got tanks. And I was like, yeah. They're like, yeah, water tanks. And I was like, fuck, God damn it. I was like, so is a cannon on? They're like, no. I was like, what makes it a tank? It's got tracks and it floats. And I was like, it's the same.
What?
He's like
Whatever,
tanks. He's like beer.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, that's how that shit works, though. But
Yeah.
yeah.
They
So you ended up becoming a corpsman. You spent how many years? And I know you did some time, obviously deployed.
Yeah, I did. So I mean, I've done a few deployments. I mean, I did 2 combat deployments, but I've done plenty of other deployments because Marines are always like people. I'm going to say this real quick before we segue into that. I'm kind of over this whole bring them all home because we're always deployed. Like,
Right.
just what we do. Like,
Right.
We're out there as a show of force, so people don't act stupid.
I think Dan Crenshaw said it best. He says, we go over there so they don't come and do dumb shit over here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We take it to their door so they don't bring it to ours.
Hey, you see what we brought to your door? Yeah.
Yeah.
If you come to our door, we got more of the same, plus all the citizens.
So have you guys ever heard of the
At
Great
least
White Fleet?
Yeah. No.
So the Great White Fleet back in World War I was all of the battleships. They took all the battleships and they painted them white. They painted them stark white.
Okay.
And they floated them from port to port to port to port to port. And they gave people tours and all this other stuff. And they were like, hey, so this is just so that that if you do something stupid, we'll shoot 18 miles. We'll shoot a small Volkswagen 18 miles at you.
Yeah. This was
Don't care.
our way of saying fuck around and find out.
Right.
The original Dog and Pony Show.
The original.
Yeah, the original.
Yeah.
Dog and Pony.
Mhm.
Facts.
Absolutely.
So anyway, where were we going after that?
You were deployed. couple of combat deployments.
Yeah.
But several regular deployments, I guess.
So I did 17 years total. And, I retired in 2010. I did 2 tours of combat. I did the invasion into Iraq in 2003, all the way up into Al-Nasiriyah. And then once we took Al-Nasiriyah, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines became the RBE, or the Remain Behind Force. And we just kind of held on Al-Nasiriyah. Left there, came home for about 4 months, and I was going to go to school to be a CRNA. Like, I was going to go to school, get my nurse's degree, and then go to certified nurse anesthetist school. And
that's good money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I transferred from 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines to the freaking 1st Marine Regiment. I was like, I'm going to go to college. Screw you guys. Well, the regiment deployed to Fallujah. And
the Marine Corps said,
birthday, the Marine Corps birthday of 2003, I was in 29 Palms doing a workup for freaking Fallujah in 2004.
Go 29 Palms.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck that place.
Dear Camp Wilson.
Fuck you, dude. That place is goddamn. Ugh.
So,
at least you weren't there in the fucking summertime. God, Jesus Christ.
Fortunately we weren't. But we did have a beer. We had a brawl on the birthday. There was I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened. It was, we were there was an air wing that had deployed with us in 2003, in the beginning of 2003, that was doing the workup with us, and VMA 311 was they had all of the beer at like 3:00 in the morning still. And we already had, like, all of us grunts had already finished like all of our booze, our beer, and we were like, wait, we still hear music. There's a Quonset hut that's jamming. We're going to go over there. So we went over and we walked in. We just kind of started hanging out and everything was cool. And then all of a sudden, we don't even like grunts. I'm like, what? And then it was just like,
right.
Like at 4:00 in the morning, I'm looking for somebody's tooth in the sand. It was weird.
There I was.
So there I was searching for this tooth, right?
Looking for a tooth.
Jesus. That's
so
hilarious.
we did the workup, and then, in February of 2004, we were off to freaking Fallujah.
And how long were you in Fallujah?
I was in Fallujah till about mid-year.
Okay. And
did a whole deployment to Fallujah.
Was that where in the scope of the taking and returning and subsequent, like, where do you?
So I did all of Vigilant Resolve, and then I did part of Phantom Fury, the beginning of Phantom Fury.
Mm.
Okay. So it wasn't like you were, just sitting around doing nothing while you were there.
Oh, no. Like, I was
off.
Yeah.
So John Tulin was RTC1, and I was sitting at the regimental office, and I was the LPO of the regimental medical office at the time. And they had brought in, I was a 2nd class, and I was a senior petty officer. And they brought in HM1 Powder Warren, great guy, amazing dude. And he came in to take the LPO position, and they were going to put me back in supply. And I'm like, no. There was a phone call from the regiment, and they're like, hey, we need a PSD doc. And I was like, I'll be over in 3 minutes. And I talked to the
found one.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm sitting here playing freaking Gas Mask Wednesday and all this garbage. So I went with the RCT as the PSD doc, one of the PSD docs. And we went wherever John Tulin went, which was a lot of places. If there was a firefight, he wanted to be there. Didn't matter. So
how many how many incursions or how many firefights is it you're talking daily, or are you talking weekly?
Oh, good Lord. I couldn't. I mean, in 2004, there were firefights all over the place.
It was kind of like one nonstop long,
it was just like
firefight with
if it was a
lulls
quiet
in
day,
between almost, right?
Yeah, if it was a quiet day, we were kind of like,
You're worried.
yeah,
Hinky.
Yeah.
I sit in this house in my house right now. Like if it gets too quiet in my house, I get weird. I'm like, I got to turn the TV on or something just to have some background noise because in my head I'm going, I got to walk around the house. I got to check the windows, the doors and stuff, go walk outside and I got to check the perimeter. It's weird. So if it got quiet, like it was just constantly buzzing. Like Fallujah in 2004 it was nonstop buzzing, you know. And if we weren't in a firefight, we were, you know, we were weird. We were a weird company, to be honest with you. Our PSD, we had a pretty interesting reputation. We were part of the colonel. We were the colonel's security. And we were always out on the road. We had 2 teams and we split them up, you know, a couple days at a time or every other day, just depending on what was going on. And we had all these pack strappers that just wanted to go out and get their combat action ribbons and blah, 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 blah. And you could guarantee that if you jumped on the bus with us, you're going to get some action somewhere. So there was a lot of that going on. At one point, we even did an insertion. Our PS, it sounds weird as hell, but our PSD did an insertion for 1-5 up around Route Lincoln at like 1:00 in the morning in a complete freaking, what do they call that? Where the moon, you can't see the moon, an eclipse.
Oh, yeah, like a new moon.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Pitch black outside, no ambient
light.
light.
Nobody gave us the intel that it was going to be an eclipse. So weird. You couldn't even see with AVGs because it was so dark.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's really dark.
Yeah. It was so dark that you couldn't see with MVGs. And so we did this insertion and we're coming back down Route Lincoln, which was IED Alley at the time. And we're coming down Route Lincoln and my gunner had his PEC 4 shining on the road so I could drive.
Fuck.
Jesus.
That's how dark it was.
Fuck. Wow.
So for people that don't understand, Chuck, why don't you explain what shining your PEC 4, because we have a lot of civilian listeners. So just kind of paint the picture of what that's like, because maybe people don't understand how completely pitch dark that is.
Driving in low light conditions, you cannot see fucking anything. Even when you're using like white hot, black hot type of things, it's the equivalent of driving with your fucking eyes, your hands over your eyes, with just cracking open, maybe a finger, and there you go. It's dark as fuck. You can't see anything. You're like, well, I hope
like when
I don't
you go in the bathroom and your
or...
bathroom has no windows and shit, like, and you turn off the light and you could just come in from out like a room with light, so your eyes aren't adjusted to the dark, and you can't see your hand in front of your face.
That's literally dark. It's fucking dark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when they say 0 dark 30, that's what they're referring.
That's exactly what it means.
Right.
Yeah. It's
right.
It's dark.
So
yeah, that was and you know, and being in MBGs, I don't give a shit how good they are. Like depth perception is always a problem.
Right.
You know, just because it's 2D and it's hard to, you know, wrap your mind around a 2D panel.
Try taking those VR goggles for your phone and activating your camera and being able to see the real world around you, but only through the lens of your VR goggles and walk around. And that's the level of depth perception. Now take away all the color and all the familiarity with the surroundings, make it all green. And then anything that's beyond a certain distance. Yeah. And anything that's beyond a certain distance just disappears.
Right.
So there you go.
It's very difficult. Yeah, you trying to walk with that shit or trying to do live fire shit is very difficult. You will eat shit if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. It is very dangerous. So you wanted to be a doctor. there, Doc. And so I'm assuming you had treated a bunch of Marines
Oh, of course.
overseas. And what was it like doing combat medicine over there? And what were some of the I guess
For anybody looking to get into
craziest
that,
things?
yeah.
And what did it like show you about medicine and combat medicine and all that stuff? And
Well, so I'll tell you, like we did the best we could to prepare, for the invasion in Fallujah. Um, the LA Trauma Center opened up and they did a lot of training for freaking Marines and all that stuff. And the corpsmen got to go hang out, with the LA Trauma Center, the Marines and the tactical teams got to go work with LAPD to learn 5 S's and a T and all that stuff. Tactical containment and all that garbage. But I can honestly tell you, before we ever did the invasion, like the only thing we had to prepare ourselves for or with was like watching Black Hawk Down. I can't tell you how many times I watched Black Hawk Down.
right.
And like now
Trying to do research.
Yeah, just trying to get my brain
Mindset.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because most of us knew we were about to see war on a scale none of us have ever experienced. Now, on an every day-to-day garrison training situation, you'll have a Marine fall off of a freaking cliff, or you'll have a Marine, jump in a hole or jump off a truck and break his leg or some shit like that, or get his hand caught in a freaking tank turret, or weird shit happens. But it's in garrison and it's controlled,
Right.
relatively speaking. And there's not a lot of outside. Once something happens in training, everything stops.
Right.
Everything stops, and you just take care of the situation. If you have to call in a truck, or you got to call in a freaking bird to get them to the hospital. Everything stops, including the entire base, and freaking, long rifle or whatever makes all that happen. You don't have that in a combat zone. Combat zone, things are always moving. Things are always happening. There's no slowing down. There's no certainty. Like, especially if you're in a firefight. You're in a firefight. You're looking, your best friend is micro terrain. Like, I don't care who you are. And I'm a big dude. I'm 6'4", and at the time I was probably like 230 pounds. Like, I'm a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to find micro terrain to cover my thick ass is not easy. So, trying to treat people in situations like that, it's not easy.
What was the biggest surprise? Like from, you're mentally prepping, you're doing these things. I'm assuming you were one of the people to go to LA Trauma Center and deal with that kind of stuff in a hospital setting. But, comparatively speaking, when you get out to the field, what was probably the biggest moment of holy shit, this is real, or this ain't like the movies? Do you have kind of a moment that you can think of that's that pivot point for you?
Yeah, well, I can tell you, the very moment that you see somebody with some serious trauma, it changes everything. Like, it's one thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge fan of EMS, paramedics, flight nurses, all that stuff. But when you know the person you're working on and you've known them for a long time, it changes everything.
Right.
I agree. Yeah.
It changes everything.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Your fucking
And
heart.
the Marines are around you just looking at you going, Doc, what do you need? What do you want? What do you need? Blah, 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 blah. And you're like, hey, listen, shut up. Shut the fuck up. I got some shit I got to figure out right now.
Right.
I'll tell you what I need in a minute. I'll delegate what I need you to do. But right now, I just have to put my faculties together to figure out what this mass casualty looks like, or what this individual casualty looks like, and process it. And what most people don't realize about corpsmen is that there are, let's say for a weapons company, which is probably about 138 solid, right? 138, 150. That's a weapons company for a grunt battalion. There are probably 6 corpsmen for that whole group of people.
That's not,
and they're spread out over all of those people. Right. It's not an easy situation. And it's, and I'm not trying to glorify what we do. It's not easy. It never has been.
No, but I think there's a similar component to something we've talked about on this show for firefighters and EMS and police officers. And it add to that component, the fact that these are people, it's what you just said is, everybody looks to you, Doc, what do we need to do? How can we help? When it goes bad, everybody looks to you,
right,
to be the one with the answers. Everybody looks to you, when a police officer shows up on a death or a traffic accident or a shooting or something like that. They know the least about the situation than anybody there. They just
right. Your job is scene safety and call freaking the RA.
But everybody looks at you and says, "What do we do?"
Right.
Firefighters show up to medical aids, and they don't know the medical history. They don't know the patient.
They've got one truck for a whole freaking firehouse.
But everybody looks at him and says, "What do we do? What do you need?" I don't know. So I think that element of being the one that everybody looks to for answers, then I can't even imagine adding on top of that the fact that this would be for my cops out there listening, or for firefighters out there listening. I think, imagine if you've ever been at a family barbecue or a party with your friends and some shit goes sideways, and they're all your civilian friends. They're not cops. They're not firefighters. They're not whatever. But these are all people and somebody fucking sets themselves on fire barbecuing, or accidentally falls off the roof and has a compound fracture. And then they all know you're a cop or a firefighter, and they look at you and go, "What do we do?" And these are all your friends. These are all the people you care about. The pressure goes even higher than it does when you're just a uniform on the street doing your job, and you can bark orders on people and tell them to sit down and shut the fuck up.
Agreed. And even when you're out there and they know that you're more experienced in the combat life-saving stuff and things like that. Like for me, I had some classes on combat life-saving skills and things like that while I was in. And then when I came out, it translated over into law enforcement, and I used to have people,
CCC still a thing.
Yeah. They would try to give me do some hip pocket bullshit classes. I'm like, you're wrong. And I'm like, and this is the reason why. And I would explain shit to them. They're like, "Oh shit, well, what qualifications do you have?" And I'd explain it to them. I'm like, "Look, dude, this is the courses that I went through while I was in the Marine Corps. And, what you're teaching is wrong. And this is what needs to be teaching. You need to be teaching arterial bleeds. You need to be teaching how to throw on tourniquet properly, how to improvise a tourniquet, especially when you have no tourniquet on you. And it's good to we ended up getting some, but I'd have them go through courses and classes with these people in our roll calls and be like, "Hey guys, if you have we all have a tourniquet on us, and it's called a hobble or a belt, but a hobble is going to work the best because it's going to cinch into place really fucking tight. And you're going to put it above the wound, and you're not going to put it on top of it. You're going to put it above the fucking joint. And you're going to go there, and this is how you're going to do it. And if it's arterial bleeding and it's spurting out, and that's an arterial fucking bleed, and you need to be able to notice these things. If it's just kind of oozing out and it's just bleeding, you put pressure on it, direct pressure, and you had to explain how to put pressure dressings on. And then when you get into a situation, I had to actually use that shit on one of my best friends. He impaled his fucking leg onto a fence. And if it wasn't for me, they would have tore his fucking femoral artery, because they tried to pull him through it. And he was in between 2 stakes with one straight through him. And it was a fucking fleur-de-lis on a wrought iron fence. And I was like, stop. And one of the guys who we were working with was a former SWAT officer for many, many, many years. And I said, "Hey, dude, no." And he looked at me because he knew my qualifications and everything. And he's like, "All right, what do you need?" And I was like, "All right, this is how we're going to do it. And on 3, I'm going to pull him out. We can't leave him on here. He's freaking out. He's going to tear something. So we're going to have to pull him out. We're going to have to put him down. We're going to have to apply pressure." And it was the most blood I think I've fucking ever seen come out of someone's leg. And everyone freaked out, and everyone stopped, and fucking a lady comes out of her house, starts screaming. And I'm the only one working on him and putting out traffic and getting the rescue ambulance there. and working through the scene and everything. And long story short, he made a fucking great recovery, missed his femoral artery, only had deep soft tissue damage and some muscle damage, and that was it. But I was like, fuck, that could have gone wrong so quick. And like everybody was like looking at you because you have a little bit more training. Even the SWAT guy was like, what do you need, dude? And it puts you in that position, and especially when it's one of your buddies, like I think that's the hardest thing. Working on someone you don't know is easy. Working on someone you know,
it's a lot easier, for sure.
Fucking hard.
Definitely. I mean, it's always hard to see trauma regardless, but I'll say like, I agree with you. Like it's harder. It's a lot harder because it's personal now. And, you know, in the medical field, they always tell you, don't make it personal. Well, I don't know about you guys, but at the end of the day, you can't do your job as a cop unless it's personal, because
absolutely
it has to mean something. You can't be a robot. Otherwise, just hire fucking sociopaths to do it.
That's what I was going to say. Like we can hire all the sociopaths out there and be like, hey, RoboCop's here. What's up?
Right. Well, and with emergency casualty care, you know, so it's when you said that, I was thinking about back to my training, and I went to the academy, my taste before Chuck did. And I received more training in how to help a woman have a baby than I did in how to treat a gunshot wound. It wasn't until I got into the field with, you know, salty veteran training officers, and one of them was like, hey, carry a tampon in your war bag, you know, because we didn't have trauma kits. Like if you get shot or somebody gets shot, you know, shove that tampon in there, you know, somebody telling me, hey, carry maxi pads, because that's basically combat dressing, you know, these little tips and tricks that they tell you. And, you know, emergency combat care, you know, that's something we should probably should have probably spent a little bit more time on in the academy, because it's something you're going to see a little bit more. But also training you for the fact that when you do it, it's going to be, there's a, you know, better than even chance that it's going to be on yourself or on your partner.
Right. Mm-hmm. Self-aid, buddy aid, corpsman aid. That's how it works, man.
Right.
You always train that way. Like that's how we always trained everybody. Like we're gonna have you work on you. If I were doing a hip pocket class right here in this room right now, I would just be, all right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna work on you putting a tourniquet on your lower leg, and we're gonna work on a abdominal dressing or a pressure dressing on a severe, you know, bleed. And we're gonna, you know, work on whatever, and then we're gonna work on buddy aid, and then we're gonna switch that. You're gonna work on each other, and then you know, at that point, when you can't get to when it's too much, when the scope is too large, then that's when you call for the RA or the doc or the corpsman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's how it should be. I totally agree with you. Like it would be awesome if everybody could experience OEMS. OEMS is just, it's live tissue. It's real live tissue, animals, like intubation, all those things that a static training. Yeah,
a dummy, a wound dummy, the rescue Randy, freaking
absolutely nothing.
No, I mean well, it's interesting. We were talking about seeing somebody bleed, and I would say that 100% of people have seen a wound bleed, right? Then there's the next step, which is maybe 70% of people have truly seen somebody bleeding, like really bleeding, right? But then you drop that down to less than 40, probably less than 30% of people have ever seen somebody bleeding out. And
if you've never seen, and you'll probably only see like most of the time, if it's an abdominal wound, right? Let's say it's a gunshot wound to the abdomen and it's center mass, the large vessels in there, the aorta, the superior inferior vena cava, those are very large vessels and they will bleed you out real quick. And you know, hitting your liver, all those things will cause some real severe bleeding. And I would say even probably less, maybe 15% of all people have seen an arterial spurt.
Right.
and that
and
that's
until you've
something
seen the
that's
amount
hard
of
to
blood that
handle.
can come out of a human body, and it's not just the volume of blood, it's the speed
Right.
at which a human body can empty itself of blood when it's arterial. It's so shocking that
Right.
if you're not ready for it, if you're not prepared for it, you'll freeze. You'll have that moment. Now, some people freeze for only a half a second and then they, jump into action. And some people literally go blank and fuck, what am I supposed to, what am I supposed to do? Hold on.
Right.
So,
You're not
yeah.
wrong. So like Chuck was talking about pulling his buddy off of the freaking fence, man. Like, and people are like, well, he didn't hit his femoral artery. The reality is the femoral artery is a very close artery to the inner side of your thigh.
Mhm.
And if you take your hand and you knife hand straight out in front of you, and then you turn your thumb up to where you're looking down, straight down on top of it, that is as large as your femoral artery is.
Right.
Like your femoral artery pushes out a lot of blood.
Mhm.
And you can die from a complete sever of a femoral artery in less than 2 minutes.
If you've ever had your pipe, like the pipe that provides water to your bathroom faucet, if you've ever had that rupture and start spilling water out onto the floor, you'll know just how much blood the femoral artery can spit out in a very short period of time.
True story. So Chuck, hands down, man, like my hat's off to you. That was a hell of a save, man. Like that's a no joker.
Yeah, no, he was at my wedding, he was going around hammered as fuck, telling people, "You saved my life."
There's always that one dude at a wedding. Oh, he's fucking saved, man. He's fucking badass, man.
He's funny. He's a good guy. I love that dude to death. But
So
I'm glad he ended well.
Well, yeah, fuck yeah. So you spent 17 years in, and then it's 2010. So now here we are, 2022, 12 years later, and you're embarking on this music career that is it sounds like healing you as much as it's helping to heal other people. How did that come about? Like, how did you go from I'm going to go to college and be an anesthesia nurse to I'm going to write songs and go on tour?
So when they retired me, I decided that I was going to go to medical school and become a doctor because it's what I always wanted to do. And I had a doctor buddy of mine. He's like, "Look, dude," he goes, "You already know the job. You don't need to spend 12 years working towards your freaking staff, doctor's license. Like," he's like, "You don't have to do all that. You already know the job. Just go get a PA license." And I had spent, so I came back from Fallujah and I went straight to a schoolhouse and I taught trauma medicine to new sailors that were going out with the Marines. And so I really never left Fallujah when I came back from Fallujah, because I brought Fallujah to that schoolhouse. I literally did.
With good reason in some cases,
It's good training.
Mm-hmm. So I and it, it caused me some serious personal issues, and I didn't realize what was going on. I had no idea. Like I'd go to sleep. I became a workaholic and an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't call myself an alcoholic, but I drank a lot. That was probably my biggest problem. I would work from 4:00 in the morning to like 10:00 at night, training, teaching sailors hip pocket stuff outside of the classroom. And I would go straight to the bar and drink until I couldn't stand up anymore and go home and try to get some sleep. And I'd sleep for, maybe an hour, half, 2 hours. And
it's drunk sleep. So it's not.
Yeah, it's not really sleep. And, in all of that, there was nightmares and all that garbage, waking up in a puddle of sweat, not knowing where the hell I'm at, trying not to hit my wife, waking up, just crazy stuff, man, And so long story short, I ended up getting a divorce and all that stuff. And So, but I wasn't ready. I started to go to, I changed my bachelor's to a bachelor's of science so I could start going to, the path of PA. And it got to the point where I was getting pretty close. And I was just like, man, I'm going to go to PA training, and I'm going to have to do a peds rotation. I'm going to have to do a burns rotation. I'm going to have to do a trauma rotation. And I just thought to him, I'm not ready for that yet. I'm just not. Could I handle it today? Could I handle it? Could I handle it today if it happened in front of me? Absolutely. I'd have no problem with taking care of some serious trauma that happens in front of me. However, do I want to put myself in that every day, all day, for the rest of my life?
Yeah, doing it acutely is different than immersing yourself in it.
Absolutely. So I was just like, well, I already play music. I already write music. May as well just try that out. See what that looks like. So I created a band. I was in a couple of bands while I was on active duty. And created a band in Jacksonville, North Carolina called Deliberately Broken. We were playing music all over Jacksonville, North Carolina, and all over North Carolina, period. And it kind of fit, it was therapy for me. Music was therapy for me because I was writing about the things that I see in my head all the time. And I just was like, man, I can't, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. And I got a phone call one day. I left North Carolina, went back home to Kentucky. And I was sitting on my sister's front porch. And I got a phone call from a guy in Houston, Texas. And he's like, hey, man, we've talked before. How would you feel about coming to Texas and just making music and going to tour all the WTUs and all the Wounded Warrior regiments and battalions and stuff all over the country? And I was like, I'm game. Let's go do that. Tell our stories, to,
Sure.
perform our music and do free shows for everybody. So that's what we did. We became a band called Vetted. We were all combat wounded guys and a firefighter. And we became big advocates for suicide prevention.
Right.
Because we've all experienced those moments.
Yep. And if you haven't, you're lying.
Right. So that's where the music became the music, the music became what drove me at that point.
Right.
The band ended up like Vetted got pretty big. We toured all over the country. We played the Whiskey A Go-Go. We played one of our biggest shows was Invictus in 2016.
Oh, wow.
The closing ceremonies for, the Invictus games in Orlando. That was probably one of the coolest shows in the world. The band got a little toxic and I wasn't really taking care of myself. And it just got to a point where I kind of needed to take a break. I may or may not have had a mental breakdown because I may or may not have published my phone number like a dumbass.
Oh,
like, hey, if you're having trouble.
Right.
Because I'd never been in a position where I had, 10,000 people following me.
Right.
And, the internet has no boundaries.
No.
And I didn't understand all that. I just wanted to help people. And so my number was published and I'd have texts and emails and all these things I was reading, and I wasn't taking care of myself either. Like I just wasn't. And I had a mental breakdown and I sat in our studio right before the end, coming out of a drunken stupor. And I had an M&P 9 shield that I was clicking across my forehead. and I had my 45 30S in my lap, and like I was just like I don't know what to do anymore. Like I can't. Like I'm done.
Right. You didn't have any specific intentions, but you also didn't know what what the next step is.
Right. I was in a toxic relationship in a toxic band. I was toxic. It just wasn't very good. It was not a good place. So I ended up spending time at the Bakey Medical Center for about a week. And when I got out, I called the guys. I was like, listen, I need to take a break. I need to step out of this for a little while because I can't anymore. Like it's too much. And so when, people talk about Kurt Cobain,
yeah,
like I can get it.
Right.
I get, because fame is tough. Fame can be tough if you're not ready for it.
Yeah. And you're still, we talked about this a little bit earlier. You're still the same asshole you always were.
Facts.
You are still the same. I'm still the same, cop I was. I mean, if I were doing the job now, I'd have a little bit more wisdom, I think. But I'm still the same asshole I was the day I entered the academy.
Sure.
I may know a little bit more than some of the younger guys, but that's just because I've been there, done that. But it doesn't make me a better person. It doesn't make me more well-adjusted.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean I can say a lot of these things on here about how to deal with things, but it doesn't mean that it's easy for me to take that advice when it comes time for me to live my life.
Always better to give. It's always easier to give than take.
Yeah.
So that's the truth.
Yeah. So I totally understand that.
Yeah. So it got a little too much for me. And I left the band. I was in a relationship for probably another 6 months to a year. And that got really, really bad. And I was like,
shit in your bed?
Yeah. No, she didn't shit in my bed. She wasn't much different than her. I promise you.
Right.
Like, my ex she had her own set of issues, and we did not blend well. And, so, I was like, I'm done. I can't. And I decided to move to Austin, and I had to basically start all over musically. Sitting on a bar stool again, like I did when I started out in the first place, sitting on a bar stool, playing an acoustic guitar, playing my music.
Kind of reinventing or getting to know yourself again.
Yes, that was it. You couldn't have said that better.
Yeah.
I was excited. I was excited to do this interview today and to have you on the show. And I showed a buddy who you were, and I was like, hey, check this dude out. We're gonna have him on the show today. And I played one of your songs. I just went to Apple iTunes, clicked, because I have all this stuff downloaded. I just clicked the first one, and he was like, oh wow, that's really good. And I was like, yeah, this dude's this fucking talented. And then I kind of gave him a little bit of your backstory, and he's like, oh shit, wow, really awesome. And I was like, you kind of sound like it's like older rock, but
Southern rock
mixed with Five Finger Death Punch and country and country rock and rock.
Oh yeah, you can hear your metal influences, but it's definitely Southern rock.
Good.
Yeah. Like you're not wrong. So like I always tell people, I don't like, people ask me what genre of music I'm in. I'm like, whatever. Like it's definitely got some grind to it. I grew up in Kentucky, so bluegrass was always part of what I listened to, what I heard growing up, bluegrass and old school, like Hank Williams Sr. and all that stuff, Waylon Jennings and all those guys.
Outlaw country.
Yeah. Outlaw country. And, and then, long haired rock, happened, and, glam rock and all that garbage. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Fucking whatever, man. Blah, blah, blah. So,
hey, it was cool at the time.
Yeah.
It was cool.
And I started playing music on the saxophone. Like,
I started on the trumpet.
That was, my grandfather, he gave me a Boots Randolph cassette and said, hey, the very moment that you learn how to play this whole cassette front and back, for those of you who don't know what a cassette is, look it up. It's not to be confused with an 8-track, but it's close.
Yeah.
And he said, once you learn how to play this cassette front and back, like Boots Randolph, he says, I'll buy you your very first independent owned saxophone. And I was like, done. So that's where I trained in my ear. And I would play with, the radio and, all those Kenny G and all that happy garbage, whatever. That's where I started with music.
Right.
I would always sing in the back of the car. My dad would always yell at me, shut up, can't hear the radio. And I'd just sing under my voice anyway. And,
I go in car rides with people and music comes on. I'm like, I'm sorry if you catch me singing. It's not even conscious. I'm not even aware I'm doing it.
It's just a thing. Let it roll. Just let it roll.
Just
I don't
relax.
mind.
Just let it happen.
When the person who's singing along to the song is good, but when they're fucking horrible, I'm like, hey man, who sings a song, dude?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. You should let them sing it.
I'm like, yeah,
You should
let them
sing
fucking sing it, dude.
Yeah. And I didn't understand, like, I've always, my whole family's musically talented, artistically talented, whatever. I've always been able to sing. I've always been able to play music. My father-in-law couldn't carry a tune in a suitcase. And, it wasn't until I started trying to play hockey that I understood that for some people, music is proof that you can love something and be terrible at it.
True story. You couldn't say that any more perfectly. So Tom, I'm going to ask you a question. Have you got onto TikTok and seen all these like 50,000 followers of people who are playing music on TikTok and they can't keep a tune? I'm like, what?
So
like, I'm struggling to keep my 5,000 and you're like 35,000, 40,000.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I don't get it.
And everybody's on there commenting, oh my God, you're so awesome. And I'm going, oh, my ears hurt. Oh.
Or when a guy just takes two songs, like some guy had taken an Avenged Sevenfold or Dragon Force song and then cut Don Henley singing Hotel California over top of it. And they're like, isn't this amazing? And everybody's like freaking out. Oh my God, it's the same song. I'm like, yeah, everybody's known that for decades.
Yeah.
Like,
hey, mashups are a thing. They always have.
The song came out and I was like, oh, that's fucking Hotel California. It's with metal, like,
right. The fact that you said Dragon Force alone was just like interesting. Just saying.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just funny because my daughter, I bought her a guitar years and years ago, but it was one of those like little, my first guitars just to see if she wanted to play it. And she didn't really do much with it, but I've played, for 30 plus years now. And so the other day she tells me, cause she's, going to be a theater major. And she says, Dad, I feel like I'm missing the boat on not playing. I'm not learning how to play the guitar. I want to learn to play the guitar now. And so she just turned 21 and she asked for a guitar. So I took her and bought her first real guitar for her 21st birthday. And she's like, I cannot wait. She ripped her fake nails off of her left hand in the car so she could, play on the fretboard when we got home. But what was amazing to me is that I'm sure you can kind of understand this. First of all, she picked up the guitar faster than even I did, and I picked it up pretty damn fast. She could, she was playing 5 and 6 chords the first day, like, and wasn't with muscle memory, not with like looking at her hand, right?
Right.
But I realized that just sitting there playing with her and just expressing that music and getting it out there again and playing, it really is. If you don't have a hobby and you want to take up music, it's therapeutic, man. It
is, man. It is
something about it.
Well, I think what we are missing, period, in the world today is expression, just self-expression, period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it makes my heart sad because, you can't really tell anybody what's going on with you because they're either going to use it against you or make you feel like trash for feeling the way you feel. But self-expression is the best way. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't know about what you guys do, if you guys do any therapy or any of that stuff, but I'll tell you, self-expression has probably been my most healing avenue, period.
Yeah.
from childhood trauma all the way to here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, true story. Like, you know, and just being able to talk about it. Period.
Yeah, art is a safe way to express things that you can't say, like you can't say to people, because it's almost like they'll look. It's the same thing we talk about on the show. Somebody asks you to tell a story. Hey, tell me about, you know, when you were deployed, or tell me about a call you were on, or tell me about a fire you went to, or tell me about, you know, an ambulance, you know, call you had, or whatever. Tell me about a patient. And you start to tell them the story, and then everybody's seen it, you know, a minute into the story, it starts to get real, and the look on their face changes, and they're like, how the fuck do I back out of this without, I can't handle this. This is,
open this door, man.
Right. But with music, because it's an abstract form and it can mean different things to different people, you can put a lot of personal shit into it. With its art, whether it's writing, whether it's acting, you can put a lot of personal shit into it. And
I agree.
It's therapeutic for you, but it's also therapeutic for them, because there's the fundamental philosophy of kill the author, where once a piece of art is released on the world, it becomes open to the interpretation of the person receiving it.
Correct.
You know,
right. I do, and I love that. And I you know, I got a lot of people who are like, "Hey, I got this song I'd like for you to look at," and for them, it was a good moment to sit down and write therapeutically. But they're very literal, and it doesn't necessarily like, you know, let's write a country song. We're gonna start with rolling down mobile in my Humvee, blah 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 blah. Like,
right,
like,
okay,
that's really good therapy for you,
right. I call it on the nose. Sometimes it's too on the nose. And
that's right.
The more on the nose it is, the more niche, the more, you know, you narrow the
smaller the vein it is. Right.
Exactly.
So me personally, I like to be very metaphorical.
Yeah. Broad.
I just like to paint with a very broad brush and just kind of give you something like, hey, like I Need to Breathe was literally written. Probably I'd been back from Fallujah. I was sitting at a coffee house with a friend of mine, Tiffany, and I was watching everybody. Like I was like, and I really was having a hard time taking a deep breath. Like, you ever had a panic attack?
Yeah.
Yes.
You just like, you can't get to your tidal volume. It's just like, it gets like right here, and you're like, I just got to
like
go
somebody's sitting on your chest.
Further. Yeah. I just got to go that much further and everything will be okay, but you can't get there. And I was sitting there doing that, and she goes, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." She goes, "Well, let's." She goes, "Do you have your guitar? Let's pull it out and let's do something with it." And then so I started creating the sound and the chord progression, and she threw a couple words at me, and then I started throwing. We just wrote the song. The song happened in like 5 minutes, literally.
Yeah, some of the best songs do that.
In a little coffee house in the middle of Chula Vista, nowhere. You know, and I call it lightning in a bottle. I'm sure that I'm not the only person, because I didn't coin that phrase. It was probably Billy Gibbons, but lightning in a bottle, man. And it's everything that I was feeling at that moment, because I couldn't take a deep breath.
Right.
I couldn't feel. I was completely, I felt like somebody was standing on top of me.
Yeah.
So,
well, brother, I appreciate you coming on here. We want to have you back. I can't wait to get out to Austin or get you out here so we can just strap on the guitars and jam a little bit, man.
Don't threaten me with a good time. Like, listen,
I know
there are guitars all over this room.
Yeah, I see that 12 string behind you, and that's my next ask. Is I've been dying for a 12 string for a long time, and it's that's next on my list.
My PRS. This was my I survived Fallujah guitar.
That's
yeah,
nice.
A gift to yourself. Oh, those PRSs are great.
Yeah,
I always wanted to learn to play the guitar.
What's stopping you?
A little too short. I don't know.
No, dude, you just get a dinky.
Listen, you
I got big hands, but small
doesn't matter, brother.
wide hands.
There's guitars that they're made for people with smaller hands. You just gotta.
I'll tell you, listen, I'll be honest with you. Like you're a percussionist, and to be honest with you, if you started to learn how to play guitar, you learning percussion guitar would be prime.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like I bet you would tear it up.
Well, Shannon, how can people find you and your music? I mean, give your website. I just sent you a follow on the gram. People, if they want to follow you on the gram, how can they do that?
Shannon Book Music, man. Shannon Book Music on Instagram and on Facebook. I'm on Spotify, just Shannon Book, Spotify, Apple Play, iHeart, anything that you get wherever you get your digital download music. That's where you can find me. Amazon, all that stuff. I have 2 web pages. They're still under construction. ShannonBookMusic.com and DeliberatelyBroken.com. They're still, like I said, they're still under construction. But they're coming along, and
people can find you on social media, Shannon Book Music.
You can find me
definitely check it out. And as you can hear, at the end of this episode, we'll be playing one of your songs. Do you have a favorite you want us to play, or can we just dealer's choice, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you what. You asked me earlier if I wanted to dedicate this episode to a specific person, and I've been thinking about that since you started. And I would like to dedicate this episode and the song to my buddy, Chief Navy Corpsman Joe Schulter.
Okay.
And the song would be "I Need to Breathe Rewired."
All right. We will end our show with "I Need to Breathe Rewired." And again, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
It's been a great time. It's been a blast. Chuck, I know Chuck has some business housekeeping to do at the end. Go ahead, brother.
I do. Well, first, before I start, Doc, thank you so much for coming on. I love your music. I found myself listening to it in my car.
Yeah, it made my wife cry, by the way. I forgot to say that.
It's fucking amazing.
Wow, thanks.
It is truly inspirational, and thank you so much for coming on. And we would be
having me.
Ecstatic to have you on again. I mean, really amazing.
Anytime, brother. You guys let me know, and I'm game. Trust me, it's been
amazing.
A blast.
Thanks, brother. For the rest of you, thank you all for listening today. If you like today's podcast, please go and follow us on our Instagram at war_stories_official and our Facebook at War Stories Podcast. If you already follow us, share our posts and our info. You can also go to the link in our bio on Instagram and Facebook to reach all of our socials, our media, and our website. Our podcast is on all major podcast streaming platforms, as well as on YouTube. If you want to support us, please go to our website at www.warstoriesofficial.com and grab some gear. We still have some Whoopie hoodies, shirts, patches, and stickers left. We'll be doing some spring and summer gear as well. And if you want to be featured on our show or think you have a story or want to share your story, please go to booking.warstories@gmail.com and send me your story, and I can get you booked for the show. We are looking for law enforcement, corrections, dispatchers, fire, medics, and veterans. If you have a friend who you think would be a great fit, let them know about us and give them our booking email. Again, that's booking.warstories@gmail.com. And again, thank you for the support and stay safe.
And to Zach, who sent us the email, we had our email episode where we've answered a couple of questions. Zach followed up with us, and I just want to say, going to the Fire Academy, congratulations, brother. We're glad that the little pieces of shitty advice we could give you from our years of banging our heads against the wall helped. And keep it surprised. So good on you, Zach. And for all our listeners, if you reach out and you want to tell us what you're doing and share with us your stories, we'll be glad to hear them, and we're glad to follow up with you. So until our next episode, come home with your shield or on it.
need to breathe. I need to breathe. I need to breathe. And I need to